Hello guys, let's study a checkmate pattern called a back rank mate today. As the name suggests, back rank mate happens when we checkmate the opponent king on the back rank, usually either using a queen or a rook. For this pattern to happen, there are three questions that you have to ask yourself when calculating. First, is the opponent king trapped in the back rank, or can it escape the back rank? Secondly, can you clear the back rank? And thirdly, do you have the piece to checkmate the king on the back rank? Let's look at this position as an example. White is to move and to win. There's a forced checkmate in 2 here. Let's apply the concepts we talked about earlier, about the three questions that we have to ask ourselves when calculating if there's a back rank checkmate or not. First, is the king trapped in the back rank? Well, yes, because the pawn hasn't moved at all, so the king cannot go to any other rank. Secondly, can we clear the back rank? Right now the rook is on the back rank, so the back rank is controlled by black. Can we clear the rook from the back rank? Yeah, we can. We use a pattern called the decoy pattern. We sacrifice the queen. Queen takes f7, check. Now black has to take, because obviously the only other move is king h8, and then that's checkmate straight away. So rook takes f7. And then the third question is, do we have a piece to checkmate the king now on the back rank? And yes, rook e8 is a checkmate. The rook cannot go back to defend because we also have a bishop pinning the rook. And that's why it's a checkmate. Let's look at another position now. White to move and win. I've also written the three questions that we have to ask ourselves when calculating if there's a back rank checkmate or not. Let's use this as a reference when calculating to make sure that we have a back rank checkmate before we actually move. First question, is the king trapped in the back rank? Yes, the black king is very much trapped in the back rank, I should say, because of g7 and h7 pawn. This prevents the black king to move from the 8th rank to the 7th rank. Secondly, can we clear the back rank? Earlier, with the queen sacrifice in the first position, we saw an example where we used the decoy pattern to clear the back rank. Can we use other pattern to clear the back rank here? And the answer is yes, as I'm going to show you. But before we perform the action, we should answer the third question. Do we have a piece to give checkmate? Yes, we have a rook here, ready to give a checkmate. Okay, so let's go. Let's clear the back rank. First we go knight takes f7. Now the king has only one legal move, which is king g8. And now we use the block pattern to clear the back rank. The back rank is now controlled by the black rook. But then we go knight d8, check. Now because of the rook on the f file, the king has only one way to go, which is king h8. And now because we're blocking it with the knight, then the back rank is sort of clear for us. And we have the rook on the f file as well, so rook f8 is a checkmate. Another position, black to move and win with a back rank checkmate. Last time we've seen a position where we use the decoy pattern and the block pattern to clear the back rank. Now we're going to use the exchange pattern to clear the back rank. Again, let's use our three questions on the right hand side of the screen to guide us through the process. Is the king trapped in the back rank? Yes, the opponent king is trapped because of the g2 and h2 pawn. Can we clear the back rank? Yes, we actually can. As I've said, we're going to use the exchange pattern here. The pattern is actually queen takes f1. We sacrifice the queen. And then the rook will take. So there's another piece in the back rank. But then the third question, right? Do we have a piece to give a checkmate? Yes, because the f file is open. So then we can take the rook on the f1 and give a checkmate. Now that we have answered all these questions when calculating, let's perform the action. First, queen takes f1. Check. We clear the back rank. And now rook must take f1. And simply rook takes f1, checkmate. Obviously in all the position we've looked at so far, and in fact all the position we're going to look at in this video, you don't have to worry too much about number 1 and number 3, right? Because I'm giving you a position to practice, especially for back rank mate. So number 1 and number 3 must be a guaranteed yes, and then you just have to figure out how do you clear the back rank in this exercise. But in real game, then number 1 and number 3 is very important when you're doing a calculation before you move. Okay guys, it's time to practice now. Black to move and win with a back rank checkmate. Feel free to pause the video and analyze the position for yourself first, and then we'll solve it together. Okay, here the king looks like it's trapped on the back rank because of the h2 and g2 file, and it looks like we have a piece to give checkmate as well because the e file is open. But then if we just go rook e1 right now, then rook f1 is actually blocking the checkmate. So although the back rank is clear right now, if we give a check right now, then it won't be clear because white can deflect it. So first we use the decoy pattern here to move the rook from its defensive duties on the f file. We sacrifice the queen. Queen takes g2 check. White has only one legal move here, which is rook takes g2. Now the rook is not on the f file anymore. So we're free to give a checkmate to the white king, rook e1. Actually it's not a checkmate yet because white can block with the knight. But then rook takes f1 and it's a checkmate because the rook is pinned. Another position to practice, white to move and win. There's a forced checkmate in 5 here using a back rank mate. As usual, please feel free to pause your video and analyze the position, and then we'll solve it together. Okay, in this position, black doesn't just have one rook, it has 2 rooks on the back rank controlling the back rank. So might be a little bit difficult to clear the back rank. But then notice here that we have a bishop and a knight. And usually with those two, you might be able to give discover check and then use the knight to block the back rank so that the rook can give a checkmate. And indeed, that's the pattern at play here. First we go rook f7 check. Now only one legal move, which is king g8. Now if you remember from the previous example, to block the back rank with the knight, you want the knight to give a check on f7 and then jump to d8. How can we do that? Well, first here there's a discover check. So we can go rook f6. Now king h8 is the only move because rook control the f file. And now we can give a check finally with the knight. Knight f7 check. King has only one legal move, king g8. And now we block the black rank finally. So knight d8 check. Again, only one legal move, king h8. And now the rook gives a checkmate. Rook f8 checkmate. Another position to practice, white to move and win. Feel free to pause the position and analyze, and then we'll solve it together. Okay, we have the black king trapped in the corner in the 8th rank. There's an h7 and a g7 file, so it looks like the king won't be able to escape. We have the rook and the queen on the f file. Should be able to give a checkmate. The question now becomes, how do we clear the back rank? Can we use any of the patterns that we have discussed earlier? A decoy, a block, or an exchange? Here we can use a combination of block and exchange. First we block the back rank, bishop e8. Now the threat is clear, which is queen f8, queen takes f8 I should say, checkmate, because the back rank is blocked. So rook takes e8. And then now we exchange. Queen takes f8 anyway, check. Rook takes f8, and then rook takes, and it's a checkmate. The last thing I want to mention is that most of the time your opponent won't fall for a back rank checkmate. However, just the threat of back rank checkmate sometimes is enough to win a material. For example, in a very high level play between grandmasters, you almost never see a back rank checkmate. But still, in a game, in this game, for example, between Aronian and Gelfand, the threat of back rank checkmate low white, Aronian that is, to win material. Here white is to play. A clear threat here is our knight, which is not guarded on d7. But it's actually white that's gonna win a knight here. First, queen e5 is the right move here. Now if rook takes, then there's a back rank checkmate, right? With the exchange pattern. So black cannot take white's knight here. And also the white knight is actually blocking black rook from protecting the knight on d5. Now the knight on d5 is double threatened. And there's only one defender. So it will fall. And white is easily winning here. Computer gives a 6.1 advantage to white. It's not a checkmate, but the threat of the back rank mate is what enables white to win material. Okay guys, that's all for back rank mates. It would really mean a lot to me if you subscribe to the channel and like the video if you find the content useful. Those actions give me feedback that my content indeed reached the right audience. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.